Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest all the way from Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the show, Dani Lynn Robison.
Thank you so much, Victor. I'm happy to be here.
Well, great to have you here. And Dani, you've been at this game a while, originally from the Midwest and some great parts of the country. But maybe before we dive into the details, perhaps give a little bit of your backstory and how you got to this point in your journey.
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and raised in church. Musician is really how I went to college and worked at Walt Disney World, worked on cruise ships. And then on cruise ships, I met my husband. I got introduced to fine art, saw the guy I was working for. He had this huge check when he asked me to run to his cabin to pick something up. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money, because I was used to being a musician. And that's really where I got introduced to money and building wealth. And growing up poor, I was always on the pursuit of understanding how the wealthy lived. So I was super excited. I told my now husband, Flip is his name. I said, you're going to become an art auctioneer, because I was so excited about, hey, there's a career I now know and like that where we can actually make money. And so that was the world in which I entered and started making money for ourselves. Eventually, cruise ships, after 10 years, we got promoted to land, started traveling every other weekend to do VIP auctions. And I said, hey, I'm going to go and explore different careers and see what is next for us so we could settle down. And so I explored financial services, then mortgage, then mergers and acquisitions, and finally landed in the world of real estate. And I landed in 2008. And so landing in 2008 was a treat. And I was a realtor to start, but then learned investing. And I will just stop there, because that's where real estate started, and I'll let you take me wherever you'd like to take me.
You know the difference between a musician and a savings bond?
No.
The savings bond will eventually mature and make money.
Oh, that's bad. That was a good dad joke.
So fast forward to today, you're active in the world of multifamily investing, doing it a little bit remotely because your office is in Ohio. Take us there. What are you investing in? What's the thesis?
Yeah, so we invest in needs-based real estate. So no matter what's going on in the economy, whether it's up or down, people need these things, and it's senior housing, multifamily, and self-storage.
So let's talk a little bit about senior housing. We're active in that space as well. We've built a bunch. And for a while, and when we talk about senior housing, of course, there's a spectrum. The first rung of that ladder, independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, and so on. So what segments are you focused on? Because at the end of the day, when I look at senior housing, when I think of it through the lens where you're designing a product for a specific customer, and it is first and foremost a service business that happens to be layered on a real estate platform. It's often packaged as real estate, maybe for tax purposes, but it's first and foremost a service business. How do you approach it?
Yeah, so we focus on assisted living and memory care. That's where we really want to live in terms of private pay. We think that's really where we want to be focused. We're also focusing on that window of properties that falls below where the institutions are buying, because we know there's so many institutions that have $5 billion, I think, closed fund, another $3 billion closed fund. They've all closed their funds at billions of dollars, but they're way up here and they're paying ridiculous prices. And then there's the independent operators and active investors who are very interested and see the need as well. And they're buying the residential, smaller boutique. We want to be right in the middle. And so I'm actively recruiting. We have one senior living facility right now. It was a ground up new development. I've been actively recruiting since that people onto my team who are experts in this space, because to your point, it is a business with real estate. And so knowing how to navigate that, to underwrite that, to make sure that your operators are the right people for the facility is really, really incredibly important. It's probably the most important part of the puzzle.
No question. I mean, the top three issues in assisted living are staffing. They really are. And it's the quality of staff in multiple different roles. There's a heavy compliance component to it. So you need folks that really bring strong systems and a strong oversight from a compliance standpoint, because you could lose your license if you screw that up, or worse. And then, of course, just attracting and retaining staff. So caregiver ratio is an important piece. The statistics in the industry are awful. in terms of caregiver ratios and, in fact, resident experience. Even in our own facilities, most of the folks who come to us have been in a larger facility and hated it and had a bad experience. We don't get that many initials. We get folks that end up here because they had a bad experience. It's nice to be able to turn those situations around for folks. But the other thing that's happening, of course, is that if you think about the thesis for senior housing and for the growth in the industry, it's based on this thing called the baby boomers. The baby boomers are coming, right? But if you think about the oldest baby boomer, if you go back to 1945, 1946, then they're actually not that old, because if you look at the average age of someone entering assisted living, they're actually older than the oldest baby boomer. So that wave actually is yet to hit. It's still a couple of years away. And so there are, in fact, a number of properties today that have actually fairly high vacancy, and we can fast forward a couple of years and see that flip around to where, in fact, there will be a shortage, but there isn't yet.
Yes, 100%. I love what you were talking about, the caregivers. This is a conversation that we have quite often with my CIO. Being from the space, he has watched as properties get under contract. If it is announced, then the caregivers are sometimes the very first to go, right? Because they are then poached and swooped from another neighboring facility to grab the best caregivers in the industry. And that is such a dire need. And a lot of people don't understand what that means as the supply begins to just get worse and worse. What does that do for the caregivers? How many caregivers? I recently read an article, and there was some stats about how many caregivers we are short, not just the facilities. And so I think it's a really important conversation. And another thing that was interesting to me about senior housing is how the food is like one of the most important factors, your residents, because my husband has, his mom is 90, maybe 91, I think she just turned. And literally what she talks to us about is her next meal, what she's eating. And so it's those little things that you really understand who's operating, how much they care about it, how much they know about it, because it's the operator in there. I know we as investors always talk about the operators, but senior living is a totally different category.
I'm going to ask you a test question here. Can you guess what the industry average is for the grocery bill per resident in assisted living? So how much does the property spend on food per resident per day?
I do not know that answer.
Any guesses?
No.
It's a shocking number. It's under $5.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a shocking number. Now, okay,
Wow.
Old people don't eat that much, but oh my gosh. At that number, you cannot deliver a quality experience under $5 a day in food. There's just no way. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not
100%.
possible. And yet that's the industry average number. So when we look at even our own facilities, it's based on 3 pillars. Number 1, great care. So caregiver ratio, making sure that your staff love their job, great food, and great communication. It's so easy. If you look at resident outcomes, if they can't advocate for themselves, advocacy is a huge component. And if family's not connected with the individual that's there for that extra help, it's not a great outcome. So that communication piece, those simple things. Make sure that you've got an iPad that you can carry on to every resident and get a FaceTime video going or a WhatsApp video conversation going so that they can be holding the tablet in bed and having a conversation. It's not that hard.
Yes.
And how many 100%. People do it,
Yeah, 100%. What I feel is really strongly about too is this is a conversation that touches everybody, right? We're all at a stage where we know somebody who's going through something in life and needs care, whether that's at home or in a facility. And so it's going to really broaden, I think, the opportunity for people to understand how they can support the effort in making sure that there's enough facilities to be able to take care of the rising need.
I like what you said about the private pay component, and it's not. Often when you say that, people get the image that you're just going after the affluent and you're greedy or whatever, when in fact it's quite the opposite, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. It takes a certain amount of dollars per month to deliver a certain level of care. And I don't care if you were on welfare or if you were Steve Jobs with billions of dollars, the care that you need is pretty much the same at that base level. Now, the most expensive care is a dedicated individual, 3 shifts a day at whatever it is, $25 an hour. You can do the math. It's a big number. And so while assisted living appears expensive, it actually is a bargain compared with that other alternative. If you're going down the subsidized path, where let's say the cost is in that $3,000 a month range, when you do the math, you cannot deliver that quality, any quality of service that would be deemed acceptable for that number ever. It's just not possible, even if the real estate was free.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. And we are also investors too. We have a responsibility to our investors in producing a return, and the margins aren't there. You're not just not producing and providing quality care. You're not providing for your investors either. You're just, you're missing it on both counts.
That's right. Exactly right. So when I think about assisted living properties, there's kind of a sweet spot, because you do have some high-priced talent. You need an executive director. You need a director of nursing. Obviously, some of that's jurisdiction dependent, whether a nurse is required to dispense or not, and so on. But even so, you need to amortize those costs over a certain number of residents. If you're doing that across 12 beds, the math doesn't work. If you're doing it across 500, well, now you've got a hospital with a better paint job, but it's not a great experience. And so there's somewhere in between, maybe in that 80 to 150 bed range, where it starts to make sense. And I see a lot of facilities in the 30 to 50 bed range that to me make no sense at all. They can't work economically. And so I really worry when I see folks making investments in that size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My CIO, Gene, would speak to this really, really well. He just walked a property that I think was an 80 unit. And the new development that we have is 115. So it is that sweet spot that you just nailed perfectly. That is our buy box, and there's a reason for it. But the other thing, so there's this mastermind. I won't talk about which mastermind it is, but they're teaching other people how to do senior living, the active investors. Hey, this is an industry that needs help. This is an industry that needs your money and your work, and they need better operators. But he just walked a property, and those operators didn't know about some of the very dangerous things that are in a facility that's ready to go. And he was just like, this shouldn't be there. This shouldn't be there. Like you have things that are going to cause you so much liability. There's no way we're going to partner with you. But here, let me share you this report, because before you actually do something with this facility, you should make sure that, it's checked out. So I think that it's one of those things where it's near and dear to everybody's heart. It's a conversation that we're all having, but it absolutely needs to be run and managed by experts who understand the space. Absolutely.
And, a lot of it comes down to design as well. When you're designing a product, you're designing it for a specific customer. And yeah, it is more difficult. And it takes more real estate to design an accessible bathroom with a shower that's zero entry and all of this sort of stuff, because, most conventional framing and doesn't lend itself well to doing a zero entry shower. It's complicated. The dimensions are not simple. Much easier to drop in a fiberglass shower pan and call it a day, but that's not going to meet the need. Design matters, and it's difficult to retrofit. Yeah. You're not going to take a hotel and retrofit it into an assisted living facility and still meet all those criteria.
Yeah. Well, something else that just popped in my mind as you were just talking about that, I think is important conversation when you're talking about, let's just apply it to senior housing, because that's what I'm going to apply it to right now. There was a deal that we are going to go into, and it was a facility with a 40-year operator. And this 40-year operator, we're actually going to take it over with the staff and everybody that was already there. And they were like best in class staff. But at the very last minute, like 2 weeks before closing, he decided, hey, I want to go ahead and actually be operating this facility with my staffing. But he had never operated in that geographic location before. And I think it's something that's important for people to understand. Some of the questions I always say, you don't know what you don't know, and you learn as you go. And that's just a fact for all of us, right? And that was a learning lesson for me, because as we evaluated all this, we're like, you're going to lose all those vendor relationships. You're going to lose so much. Like, you're not in this geographic space. Yes, you're a proven operator right over here, but not over here. And I don't want to test drive that with you. So if you're going to make that change 2 weeks before closing, we're going to pull out 2 weeks before closing, because I don't want to put my money in there, and I don't want to put my investors' money in there. So I think there's so many conversations. We could do like 10 coffee hours about the things that you should be asking.
Love it. Well, Dani, if folks want to connect, if they want to learn more, what's the best way?
Absolutely. So you can go to chatwithfreedom.com, and that is chatwithfreedom.com. Sometimes I speak too fast. And we would love to know if you came from Victor's podcast. So there's a promo code. If you'd like to jump on a quick clarity call, it actually doesn't talk a whole lot about us. We talk about you. We want to understand you, what you're wanting to invest in, what are your goals, what is the dollars and the jobs that you want it to do, to see if we're a good fit, because we do something different than normal syndication. And we're very fixed preferred return notes backed by real estate. And so if we're a fit for you, we take 15 minutes to see what that looks like. And then we have another call where we can talk about anything else that you like to talk about what we do. But we would like to know if you came from Victor. So type espresso in the promo code, and then we'll know you came from Victor's podcast. And we would love to have a conversation and get to know you better.
Awesome. Well, Dani, great to connect. And for the listeners at home, you definitely want to connect with Dani Lynn Robison at chatwithfreedom.com. The links will be in the show notes. And in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow.